Hola a todos y bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de The Digital Download. Oops. Good afternoon, good morning, and good day, wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome to a new edition of The Digital Download, the longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn Live, now globally syndicated on TuneIn Radio through IBGR, the world's number one business talks, or news and strategy radio network. Today, we are tackling one of the most pressing issues in business today, the growing pipeline gap facing sales leaders, with marketing leads becoming scarcer and less reliable. The pressure on sales teams to self generate more revenue than ever before. To discuss how leaders can navigate this challenge, we are joined by our own panel of experts. So before we begin, let's quickly go around the set and introduce everyone. While we're doing that, why don't you in the audience reach out to a friend, ping them, and have them join us? We strive to make the digital download an interactive experience, and audience participation is highly encouraged. Adam, would you like to kick us off, please?
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Gray. I'm co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm very excited to be talking about this topic today. One of the things that I see in my travels is that this is a perennial problem that just keeps happening again and again and again within every organization. So it'll be really interested to see how we can unpack this and see if we get any insightful and interesting comments from the audience, which may shed some more light on why this problem is not being addressed properly.
Thank you, Adam, and definitely looking forward for questions from the audience today. Tim.
Thank you and welcome. My name's Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I agree with Adam, which is that we seem to hit July, and everyone's saying there's no pipeline. But there again, we've been through a couple of years where people have been saying that the pipeline's been low anyway. So, and with the number of layoffs that have been taking place in tech, I think there's a symptom there. So I'm really interested and excited to be talking about that today. And I think that we actually have some answers.
Maybe we do. Let's see. Let's see. And to check that, gentlemen, I've got a first foundational question. Sorry. My English is struggling today. Why is the traditional model of marketing generating leads for sales fundamentally broken? Go on, want to take that, Adam?
Okay, so I think the issue is, and we kind of toy with this pretty much every time we have a conversation around this, and the reality is that every single business produces a product which is fit for purpose, and every single business says my product is good, and every single business believes that their product is better than the competition, which it may or may not be, but all of the organizations out there are using the same rhetoric for this. They're all saying, to paraphrase it, our product is best, our product is market leading, you should buy our product. And the problem with this is that the buyer, who by virtue of the fact that, if you are a CRM company making CRM systems, you know everything there is to know about CRM systems, one would suggest. As a buyer of CRM systems, you're not as sophisticated because you're busy doing injection molding or legal services or whatever it is that your business does. So you're not an expert in CRM systems. So you're not experienced enough or sophisticated enough to tell the difference between companies A, B, and C. So you look out there, all of these companies claim to be the best. All of these companies claim to integrate with everything else. All of these companies claim to give you incredible insights. And you go, well, it doesn't matter which one I buy then. And it means that from the seller's perspective, there is no strong reason for me to select product A rather than products B or C. And as a result of that, these organizations don't have any control over what their pipeline looks like. I've had a conversation with Bertrand. He tells me he's going to buy. I've had a conversation with Tim. He tells me he's going to buy. Actually, neither of them are going to buy because there are 100 other players in this space, and they've said the same thing to all of these organizations. So I think that the problem is that, and it's not a fault of marketing, I think the problem is that the buyer doesn't consume these messages in the way that they used to. And still the same old, idea that we're going to create an ideal customer persona. We're going to talk to those people in their voice. We're going to invite them to webinars and events. We're going to hyper personalize this conversation. We're going to multi-thread this, so we're having conversations on every available platform. And I think what so often is forgotten is that conversations are a two-way rather than a one-way street. So the fact that I'm talking at you is not the same as us having a conversation. And, when we talk to sales leaders, and I know this is true for both of you guys, when we talk to sales leaders and we say, you get leads from marketing, they say, well, sort of, yeah. So we phone these people up and we're told they're a hot lead and they're interested in buying the product. And we phone them and go, Bertrand, so I understand you're interested in buying my CRM system. And you say, no, not really. Oh, okay. So there's this massive disconnect because what previously had been a cue, a trigger, flag that you were ready to buy now simply isn't that anymore. So it's not marketing's fault, but marketing doesn't work the way it used to work. And I think that's the big thing.
But surely if we've invested in creating a brand, and a brand that has emotion, and then what people are going to do is that they're going to recognize that.
Yep.
And they're going to see that, and they trust it, and that's how they're going to purchase.
Well, yeah, I think that is in part true. I think that if you think about brands that are recognizable, so you're familiar with BMW, you're familiar with Salesforce or Oracle, you're familiar with Apple, you're familiar with Lenovo, you're familiar with Reebok. All of these are organizations that have spent decades building a brand, and that brand lives inside your head because you know what it stands for. For me to assume that I can launch a brand or take a brand stretch, take my product into a new market where we've not been before, and to assume that you're going to have any kind of recognition of that brand is delusional, really. Because you are far too busy to remember that my brand is professional but friendly. It's the bright, cheery one. It's the one that puts flowers on it. You don't care. You're too busy worrying about how you're going to make your number, how you're going to take your product to market, how you're going to keep your customers happy, to worry about my issues. And I think that always this comes back to the people who are at the front line, the sales force, the account managers, the technical people that are engaging with the client. That's where the brand lives. And those are the people that own the relationship. So we need to empower those people to be having conversations within their target accounts and their existing accounts in order that there can be some bridge built between your company and the client. Because without that, you're just another replaceable product. It's like last time you had a BMW, this time you've got a Mini, next time you're going to buy a Fiat. It doesn't matter. They all work. They're all fine. There's no difference between any of these things anymore, really.
But surely we can use a program like ABM, so account-based marketing, where what we do, what you just described, what we could be doing is that marketing can basically be connecting. We set of nominated accounts. We therefore understand who our ideal customer profile is. And what we can do is that we can use LinkedIn, for example, as a way of showing them adverts. And by basically showing them adverts, there will be brand recognition. And therefore, when it comes to actually buying, they will understand the brand, and therefore we will be at the forefront of their mind.
You'd like to think so. But actually, I think, so in the UK, we have two really big supermarket chains, Tesco's and Sainsbury's. And they've been running their strapline campaigns for 20 plus years. And if you say to people, what is Sainsbury's strapline? They'll say, every little helps, which is in fact Tesco's strapline. You know, they've got the biggest advertising budget of any organisation in the UK, and still people don't understand it because people are not that interested. That's the reality. They're not that interested in the minutiae of difference between product A and product B. That's true of the supermarkets, and that's true of your product as well. And I think that the only route to those people is, why am I going to listen to you, Bertrand, when you speak? Because you're my friend, because I like you, because we've engaged, because you've listened to me speak. All of that builds equity in order that I give you the time to speak and I believe what you say. Brands don't have that. I can fall in love with a person, I can't fall in love with a brand. And I think that's a fundamental disconnect there. And I think that marketers get so wrapped up in, oh, my brand is absolutely breathtaking and it means everything to me, right up until they go and move to another company. And then that brand means everything to them. Now, that's not a criticism, it's merely an observation. It's like, okay, if this is the one and only brand, you would never, ever, ever leave that company. But you do, because you get better opportunity somewhere else. Because these are just things.
Sorry, Bertrand.
I can hear our audience and the sales leaders in our audience saying, well, this is marketing's job. This is not my job. So are you saying I have to go back to square one and say, I've got to develop my own opportunities, and on which time am I going to do that?
Well, I think the key thing to remember is that in an ideal world, this would be marketing's job, and the things that marketing were doing would deliver a constant stream of quality leads to you, but they don't. So the question is that as a sales leader, do you want to make your number or not? So you can either rely on marketing to deliver these opportunities, or you can rely on yourself, i.e. your team, to deliver these opportunities. And I would suggest that a phone call from, hi, I'm Bertrand, I bake bread, I'd love to have a chat and hear about your bread, is much more likely to get a rapport building, heart-to-heart conversation with somebody than saying, hi, I'm Bertrand from CRM & Co, and we've got the best CRM system in the world.
And I can definitely back up this with hard figures for sure.
Absolutely.
So what then would be the first steps? And I'd like to understand, number one, what else would be the first step as a sales leader to take that shift, and how marketing can help?
Well, we've all got stories, haven't we, about the good old days when you could easily address people with a phone, and I remember many years ago the person that ran the company is saying to me, basically we haven't got any clients at the moment. We need to generate some clients. So here's a list of all of our past clients. Phone them up and just say to them, hi, Bertrand, I've not spoken to you for ages. I just wanted to check you were okay. Mm-hmm. See what happens. So I phone Bertrand and he say, hi, Bertrand, are you okay? And you go, yeah, everything's fine here. How are things with you? And I go, yeah, things are great. Oh, well, I just wanted to touch base. And then I phone Tim, and Tim says, yeah, I'm great, but I'm really glad you phoned because I need some more of this thing that I bought from you before. And I go, okay, I phoned at the right time then, didn't I? And I found that 20% of the phone calls that I made actually elicited a sales opportunity. Now, the numbers may have changed, but going out there and pressing palms, whether that's knocking on doors, whether that's telephoning people, whether that's sending emails, assuming that you can get through to people through those channels, that's great because those people already know you and trust you. So continuing, reminding them who you are, you maximize the chance of being in the right place at the right time. And we know that 95% of buyers are not in market at the moment. So you're relying on a 20-to-1 luck ratio to get in touch with someone at exactly the right time anyway. So you need a vehicle for getting in touch with people at scale in a way that they don't feel that they're being treated to something at scale.
Yeah, it reminds me, Chris Mason at Namos, which is one of our clients, he's the CEO there, and he put out a post, and somebody from one of his clients saw it and said, hi, Chris, sent him a DM on LinkedIn and said, hey, Chris, saw your post. Can you get one of your sales team to give me a call, please? That turned into $500,000 deal.
Yeah. And it happens time and time again, like it was Gary Player, wasn't it, that said, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. You can't rely on luck, but what you can do is you can make sure that you're out there maximizing the chance of being in the right place at the right time. It's like you and I, Tim, we went to an event quite recently where we're walking through the event. Why did we go to the event? Well, because we were hoping we would bump into some people that we knew. And we did bump into people we knew. And interestingly, also, we bumped into some people that we didn't know, but they knew us because of what we do on social. But the point is that, you turn up there and all of a sudden you're a friendly face in this morass of people who are trying to sell you stuff. You're a friendly face, someone that, let's go and grab a coffee and have a bit of a catch up. That'd be lovely. And I think that obviously what you want is you want to have an opportunity to keep smiling and waving at people across this crowded digital room in a way that they don't feel that you're pitching them. Because when we went to that event, someone walks up to us and they say, "Oh, hi guys, I've not seen you for ages." And we say, "Fantastic, are you interested in buying another training program?" Oh, he's walked off. I wonder what happened there. It's like that's not the way people want to be dealt with. And yet we all know this, and yet we all forget this when we're in sales mode, don't we?
Yeah, that's a little bit. That's a massive shift in mindset, I would say, and we know by experience that it's not easy to drive this change in mindset from being a lead receiver to an opportunity creator, basically.
To answer your question, Bertrand, there has to be a culture of prospecting coming from the leadership. There has to be a vocalized aspiration and setting by, this is the culture we want in this organization. Now, the first time you say that, most of the salespeople will probably ignore you and think, yeah, you said that all before. But the other thing is that it has to be shown by the leadership that they're actually invested in the culture. So I remember when I was at Oracle, we had the every year, the salespeople wouldn't update the CRM. So it was decided that what we would do is that we needed to show how to do it. And we were in a meeting and it was the same, so and so that from pre-sales would actually show how to use a CRM, which we all knew would be too advanced for the salespeople and nobody would do anything. And I actually said to Steve Newton, Mark Newton, the VP, I said, the only way that you're going to get the change is if you do the demo. And he said, "You're right. Okay, I'll do it." And it was Mark, when Mark said, he stood there and said, "Salespeople, you need to update the CRM system," and everyone, yeah, whatever. And he said, "I'm now going to show you how to do it." And everyone went, "You what?" And he said, "Right, where's the keyboard?" And it took us ages to teach him how to do it. But he really enjoyed it because he actually liked to understand how the technology works. He liked to have that sort of like, I only need to understand it from there, but what I'll do is I'll go down a level because that helps my understanding at this. And he actually did the demo of how to update the CRM. And guess what happened? All the salespeople updated the CRM. And that's the thing, and it's just standard leadership. That you have to, it doesn't matter how many leads that need to be created, whether it's 10%, 20%, or 100%. There has to be there has to be a vocalization of that culture, and it has to come from the top as well. We have, as leaders, we have to set the bar for everybody to try and achieve whatever it is that we set in terms of the culture.
So here's an interesting thing. I was in London yesterday, and I met up with somebody who this person works at a client that we have coached one of their sales teams. They will remain nameless, and you'll see why in a second. And I spent probably a couple of hours with this person, and it was very interesting seeing how large corporates still view the behaviors and the KPIs with which they measure the sales team. So This person is very socially able. So they're very good. They're very sociable. They're very friendly. They're very light-hearted and accessible. There's not somebody that you would be scared of having a conversation with. And this person leads the league table, I believe, in the UK, in terms of the number of conversations that they get with new prospects. They're at about 180% of their number. They're leading the table in terms of the number of conversations they get. So I, rather naively and foolishly, said, that's brilliant, because I assume that excuses you from having to make cold calls and send cold emails, because you get more conversations than anyone else, and you're almost 200% of what it is that the expectation of you in terms of closed business. And they said, no, I'm constantly being reprimanded for not making cold calls. So you make 100 cold calls to people that don't pick up the receiver. You send 100 emails that don't get any response. And I get why you would drive people to do that in absence of success. But if the person's being successful, I said, why isn't everybody in the UK looking at you saying, how are you getting so many conversations with people, and what can I learn from it? And this person said, well, actually, loads of people have come up to me and they've said exactly that. And he said, and it's not any secret. He said, it's exactly what you guys have taught me. He said, it's not any secret. I show them exactly what I do. And the response I often get is, it's a lot of work, isn't it? And he said, well, how much work is it? Because it works compared to all of this stuff you're doing, which is a load of work, which doesn't get any results. So what's the point? And he said, unfortunately, there is, and you said, Bertrand, that, well, that's marketing's job, isn't it? There's this very silo-driven mentality, particularly in very large organizations. A, it's political, and B, it's very silo-driven. So that's not my job. That's your job to do that bit. Even if you failing, in quotes, to do your job directly impacts on my employment within the business, still, it's your job to do that. And that entrenchment is very dangerous, isn't it?
Not sure it's a failure, but let's say that as you said earlier, the buyer does not behave. Buyers have changed their behavior, so hence the failure of that approach.
And I think
sorry.
And I thought it was interesting. The other week, I saw someone put out a post about the buyer's journey. And there was this thing, what you need to do is map the buyer's journey. And of course, they're saying that because they sell those services. And I basically responded, the buyer's journey is go to ChatGPT and ask a question and ask a prompt, isn't it?
Yeah. What you've mapped is the seller's journey, not the buyer.
Yeah. And it's like, I understand that they sell those services, but that just shows how much the world has transformed and changed in only we're just coming up to 3 years of 2.5 years of ChatGPT. And I mean, I see, quite a few people, some of the more advanced sales trainers and coaches who put out prompts and stuff, showing people how to actually craft things. They always do it from the sales perspective, but if you do it from a buyer's perspective, I think it would be quite shocking. But we can all go to ChatGPT and build up I'm trying to buy a payroll. Okay, give me a list of the top 5 players, what their prices are and what their USPs are. And that's the buying process.
So going back to metrics, because I think, and I'm experiencing this as well with our customers, Adam, that there is a certain set of metrics that are that sales organizations report on, and also marketing organizations report on. So are we saying we need to change the metrics?
Well, I think we definitely do, but I think that there's a huge level of pragmatism which is required here. So, we have always said, if we talk to a client and they say, I've got loads of leads and I have loads of conversations with new prospects, then there's no point in us having a further conversation with those people at that stage, because they haven't got a problem. The bit that we solve, they have already sorted somehow. Great. But oftentimes, the marketing and early stage sales process is pouring effort into a bottomless pit, and they're not seeing anything coming back. And every time I talk to a sales leader or someone in the sales team, I say what I had exactly this conversation with a large tech client a couple of years ago, which was, can your sales team sell? And the answer is, yeah, they're really good. Okay, so why have you got no pipeline? And they couldn't answer that question. And I said, I bet it is because your salespeople can sell, but they haven't got anyone to sell to because nobody wants to talk to them. And they were like, yeah, that's exactly what the problem is. Okay, so there is no point in addressing your sales team's ability to present, their ability to spin, their ability to qualify, or their ability to storytell. There's no point in teaching them any of that stuff. And the reason there isn't is because they haven't got anyone to do it to. So the first thing you need is you need to be having lots of conversations with people that you want to be doing business with. And then maybe you're brilliant at selling and it'll all close. Maybe you're not, and none of them will close, but at least you've put the first piece of the puzzle in place. And continuing to train somebody in negotiation skills, if they're not even issuing proposals, is a complete waste of everybody's time. They need to focus on the bit that is missing from this chain. And I think that that's the big issue. We know ourselves. We had a guy that worked with us, and he was asking, well, when he came to join us, he was asking, should I be in sales? I really hate this. I'm not a very nice person because nobody wants to talk to me. And he went from having one call every 2 weeks with someone that wasn't really that interested to having 25 calls a week with people that did want to talk to him. And it's like, oh my God, I just love my job. I love my life. It's fantastic. Okay, that's the output. The output is queuing up people that want to have a conversation with you, and you see where the conversation goes. But he's not my buyer, the person in that company. No, but I want to talk to you, Bertrand. You're the buyer. I want to talk to you, but you don't want to talk to me. But that's the end of the deal then. If you're not going to answer my calls, that's the end of the deal. However, if I can say, well, you don't want to talk to me, well, it's because you don't know me, clearly. You don't want to talk to me. So I'll forge a relationship with Tim, and then Tim will say, I think you need to speak to this guy. He's really smart. Okay, so you can walk around all of these roadblocks. So you need to be talking to as many people in the target account as you can, because you're looking for someone who likes you and is prepared to be your champion internally, aren't you? But this idea that and you said yourself, Tim, that a long time ago when you were analysing a sales team's performance, and you said, how many people are you connected to in that target account? And they said 3. And you said, well, the deal isn't going to close then. And sure enough, what happened?
It didn't close.
It didn't close.
It was Domino's pizzas, and they weren't connected to anybody in the account.
Yeah.
So the good news from what you just said, Adam, is that one of the metrics can remain is the number of calls, but it's the way you get these calls.
Well, it's the number of calls
if I understand correctly, the way you get these calls is.
But isn't it the output which is the number of meetings?
Well, yeah, but I think by calls, what we're meaning is the number of times you actually speak to someone at the phone.
Okay.
The number of dials I make and the number of messages I leave is irrelevant. The number of times I have a conversation is what matters.
Yeah,
so
that's what I meant. That's what I meant, of course.
Yeah. So that conversation can be on the telephone, it can be on Zoom, or it can be face to face. But if I'm selling something complex, you will never. I'm sure that any complex, strategic, high value purchase, I can't imagine in the history of the world any of them has been sold from someone reading a brochure.
So Adam, if we walk your hypothesis basically along and say, right, okay, so we're marketing at the moment isn't working.
Yep.
Yeah. And the issue is that nobody wants to talk to us.
Yep.
Because we know what's going to happen is that you're just going to basically pitch to me.
Yep.
And though we do know that 4 to 6% of the marketplace are buying at any one time.
Yep.
So we know that so if we're not talking to 4 to 6%, that means we're leaving money on the table. We know that basically account-based marketing isn't working. And as you know, with marketing, what we do is we take an adjective and we put it on the front, because if marketing doesn't work, what we'll do is we'll put a new adjective every week.
Like digital, you mean?
Yeah, digital marketing, performance marketing, plant marketing, or whatever it is.
Yep.
And then we can say that the previous one failed, and then but we're doing performance marketing now. Yeah, it's different. Yeah. And so nobody, if nobody wants to talk to us, how do we get conversations?
Well, I think that the issue is, and often, one of the most respected names in business, IBM. Nobody wants to talk to IBM. Lots of people want to talk to Dave at IBM because he's really smart. So I think this is not about nobody wants to talk to us, but lots of people want to talk to me. So what we need to do is marketing's job in the future, I think, is clear that the marketing's job is to empower the individuals to be smart about how they stimulate conversations with their target market. So the stuff that marketing can do much better than sales. They're much better at doing pretty stuff, visuals, graphics. They're much better at telling stories, generally speaking. They're much better at writing things. So that is marketing's superpower. That's what salespeople have traditionally not been very good at doing. So having a marketer sitting next to you saying, actually, I think you should rewrite that, Tim, and use more of this kind of language. And I've done a really good visual that goes with that thing that you've just written for you, means that the salesperson can appear incredibly polished and friendly. And the marketer's skills are being deployed in a way that's really, really valuable. And I think the thing is that, the point of marketing is it's seen as one-to-many. So I've got a market of 1,000 people. I'm going to write this one thing. I'm going to issue it to 1,000 people, and 1,000 people will see it. But actually, it's one-to-many that aren't listening. So I'm going to produce this piece of content. I'm going to put it out there to 1,000 people, and 1,000 people will ignore it. And that's generally what happens. And any marketer that says, oh, well, we get a 40% response rate on our emails. No, you don't. You get a 40% open rate, and that's because the preview pane in the email tool opens it automatically, and it gives you the opportunity to scroll down and then click on the bit that says unsubscribe. So, and we know that probably 7 years ago, we began working with a cybersecurity company, and their head of marketing was really honest with us, and they said, we've got this really engaged audience, and there's like 1,000 people in the audience, and we send an email out and we get like 50 responses, and we send an email out, we get 20 responses, and we send an email out, we get 5 responses, and we send an email out, and it's flatlined. It is not working anymore. What are we going to do? And I think that the first issue here is to bury all of the kind of the pomp that goes with, I've got this budget for doing this, and I've got this new tool that's, and look at actually the reality of what's happening. And, when we wrote the books Marketing, at that point, we could see that there was a huge fracture between sales and marketing. It's like nearly 10 years ago now, huge fracture between sales and marketing departments, because sales said everything we get from marketing is crap. And marketing said, we give all of these hot leads to sales and they can't close any of them. And that was a big issue even then. And what we know is that what a marketer might traditionally have qualified as being a really hot lead, i.e., you've been on the website, you've opened a brochure, you've attended a webinar, has little or nothing to do with your propensity to buy this quarter. You might be doing initial research. I might be actively looking at your product to qualify it out. And I'll have all the same kind of behavioral traits as somebody that's trying to qualify you in. And often people look at, this is the way I want it to be, and therefore it is this way. And you know that from sales teams. You say to a sales team, when you pitch, face-to-face pitch, what percentage of those do you win? The sales team say 60, 70%. And then you go, well, you pitched 27 times last quarter and you won 3 of them. Oh yeah, because you remember the bits you want to remember. You see the things you want to see. So there needs to be a real kind of reality check for both of these parts of an organization.
And how do we bring that? So assuming that, I've done that exercise, I've got the numbers, and I agree this is not working. How can I get the C-suite buy-in into, at least an initiative or really changing the game?
Well, I think that so Tim and I had a conversation about this the other day, and I said, so large organizations that we know are incapable of doing this, how come they're continuing to grow? And Tim said, I suspect it is probably repeat sales to their existing customers that are really embedded in that. So this guy that I was speaking to yesterday, spent some time with, I asked exactly the same question, and he said, it's all old customers.
Yeah.
That's it. He said, we've got a product, we take it into this market, at which point they're a new customer. Somebody has to sell that. And an interesting aside to that, he said, one of the things that's really interesting in a sales-driven organization, it's like disparagingly, people say, yeah, but you didn't actually sell that, Tim. That was someone in your network. So someone that you already had a relationship with. It's like, what the hell does it matter? They've given us money. It doesn't matter whether I've knocked on their door or they phoned me up and said, hello, mate, I've not seen you for a month. I need to hand you some money. The end result is the same. Anyway, this person said then, from then on, it's invariably repeat business. And that's why we're continuing to scale our product range in order that we've always got something new to sell these organizations, because that's the only way. New customers are not a thing. And you see that in the tech sector. Oracle has got Oracle houses, Salesforce has got sales houses, SAPs have got SAP houses. And once they're in there, to turf out one of those giants and replace the entire suite of product is highly, highly unlikely. So you are, except for new entrants that have grown into that kind of enterprise space, it is for the most part just expanding within an existing name, isn't it? But,
so where are the in this type of organizations, and there are quite a lot, especially when times are tough, you tend to turn back to your install base, basically, or to your existing customers. This is not really a very great recipe for growth in the long term.
No. But managing
so where are new customers buying from then?
Well, first of all, managing growth even within your existing customer base can be helped by being better connected into the customer base. And the question is, if everyone in that particular account of yours knows who you are, or nobody knows who you are, which is a better circumstance? And people go, well, obviously everyone knows. Okay, so why are you, back to your thing about Domino's, Tim? Why are you not connected to anyone, or why are you connected to 3 people then? It's a company of 100,000 people. You're connected to 3 of them, one of whom has no idea who you are. So you've got 2 potential relationships in the company. That's not. There's no certainty in that at all. But I do think that the big challenge that we have, because we've got 2 competing things. We know that 95% of people are not ready to buy now. So that's a given. But if we've got a good product, what we do have, or should have, is a fundamental belief that if I've got the right product for you, you're going to buy my product. Maybe not now, but at some point you're going to buy my product. So then I need a way of keeping you engaged and friendly on an ongoing basis. And I think that for modern sales, and this was not true 20 years ago, but for modern sales, Wolf of Wall Street, Glengarry Glen Ross, The Boiler Room, films like that are the most damaging belief systems that salespeople can have. Because basically what they're saying to somebody is, buy this quarter or piss off. That's what they're saying. And the client basically says, fine, I'll piss off then.
This is the, you're either basically qualifying somebody in or out.
Exactly.
Because our sales leadership are saying, are they in or out? And what you do when you qualify them out is basically tell them to piss off.
Yeah. Your sales leader says to you, well, you just need to go and basically force the outcome. So you force them, and to the point where they will never engage with you again. So even though they could be a perfect customer for you that would have come in 2 years' time, they don't want to talk to you ever again. So you've completely burnt your bridges. And that's why there's this constant need to generate new conversations in new accounts. If what you said was, okay, there are 100 accounts in this sector, this is your sector, Tim, you gradually work your way through and get to know everybody in that sector. So everyone's aware of who you are, everybody consumes your content, everybody values your opinion on stuff, everybody asks for your help, even if they're not buying today. And you just keep people engaged in that way. So you know that in 2 years' time, if someone wants to buy in that space, they're going to come to you because they've built a relationship with you. They trust you, even though they haven't spent any money with you. They know that you're good at your job because you've helped them and given them advice. I mean, it's the perfect way of building relationships and maintaining relationships at scale.
So rather than qualifying people in or out, what we should be doing is thinking about a person. Are they buying now or later?
Exactly.
And that gives us then a platform to nurture.
Absolutely. And I think that the point is, and you need to have a dose of reality with this. If my company or my product is not a good fit for your company or product, then actually you are qualified out. But if I genuinely believe I've got a good product for you, the question is just trying to get the timing aligned. You can't buy because you're under contract to someone else. You can't buy for 3 years. Okay. Well, between now and 3 years' time, I need to make sure I'm the only person that you think of about this, which is brilliant. 3 years is plenty of time to do that.
But if we go back to the beginning again, saying that marketing doesn't work, and therefore somebody has got to generate the opportunity. So if we're going to say sales do that, what's the best way to do that? Because surely the most quickest and most effective way of generating any sort of pipeline is by cold calling people.
I don't think it's the way of generating any pipeline. What I think is it's the way of, for the 5%, potentially getting a sale immediately if you can get through to someone. There are a lot of ifs here. If I've got your number, which I may not have, if you happen to answer the phone, which you probably won't do, if you are prepared to extend me the 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes that I need to position my understanding of you and your problems and a solution to those, which you probably won't do, if all of those things I am able to do, all of those pieces of the puzzle fall into place, cold calling absolutely is the way to get to somebody that says, okay, come on in and we'll have a proper chat about this. The problem is that there's an awful lot of ifs in that journey. And I think that the challenge here is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to build something which is sustainable and scalable in salespeople. So the beauty of building a network on social is that you can quickly add people to that network because you're targeting a particular industry, vertical, account, region, whatever. You know that every single person you add from now on is going to be somebody that you want to be having a conversation with, and you constantly grow that network so that you are building a digital bridge between you and them. If they're not connected to you, they're not going to see any content you share, good or bad. So, and we've all got, whether you've got 500 or 50,000 people in your network, a tiny sliver of those people. So typically if someone's got 1,500 connections, they'll know 300 of them and the rest of them will be, I probably met them at an event somewhere. Okay, so first of all, I need to be somebody that you recognize in your network. So I need to have a behavior which encourages you to notice me, first of all. And then I have to constantly be feeding you with stuff so you don't forget who I am. And the beauty of doing that is that if I've got 100 connections today and 1,000 connections in a month and 2,000 connections the next month and 3,000 connections the next month and 4,000 connections the next month, every person I add means that my content is potentially being shown to more people that I want to be having a conversation with. you luck out. You're in the right place at the right time.
But I mean, in terms of but that's, I mean, for a salesperson to share content, it's very easy, isn't it? Because what we do is that we get content from marketing. So there's the brochures, there's all the case studies, there's the white papers that they create, and we can basically put that out on social comment.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that a really good way for anybody who's trying to sell anything to visualize what's going on is like dating. If you walk into a room full of perfect partners for you and you say, "Hi girls, it's okay, I'm here now. This is what I have to offer. This is where I work. This is the food I like to eat. This is where I go on holiday. This is the car I drive. This is my house. This is my bank account." You're giving them all of the information that you might give them. But if you talk to a room full of people in that way, you're unlikely to get any response because they don't see it as being an intimate one-to-one conversation. Exactly the same in sales. If I think you're saying exactly the same thing to 500 other people, it's of little or no interest to me. So we need to be presenting our ideas in a way which is very different. You can't present the sales idea to 500 people at a time. What you can do is present your help to people. So for everybody out there that I'm connected to, here is something that I learned this week, and I think everybody should know this. Okay, that's brilliant, because either I'm going to share something that you yourself know to be true, in which case you'll think, "Oh, that's good, he knows that as well, he must be quite a smart guy," or you're not going to know it, in which case I'm going to share it and you're going to go, "Wow, he's a smart guy, I didn't know that." Either way, it's a win. And if we constantly did that, I mean, some of the most engaged people on social networks, people that have huge followings and are incredibly well known and respected by those people, are people that share interesting content, not people that share sales content. And whether that interesting content is, here's something funny that I saw, here's something that I learned, here's a lovely quote that I read the other day. Because the first thing you need to do is you need to demonstrate to people that you're not somebody that they should be scared of.
But you say that, but our brochures and our white paper and our case studies is brilliant and exciting.
Yeah, I mean,
or is that just because we're excited about it, so therefore you're going to be excited about it?
I was saying this to a client actually on a call just last week, and this client, they volunteer at an animal sanctuary. And they work at a tech company, and in their spare time, they're on the board of this animal sanctuary. And I said to them, one of the things you need to understand when you're starting to put yourself out into the public domain is you need to think about what truly is important to you. So you say, and this person didn't say, "I'm passionate about business analytics." But so typically people say, "I'm passionate about insert whatever the company does there.
Transformation."
Yeah, I'm passionate about digital. And I said, "So if you won," this person's in America, I said, "if you won the US lottery tomorrow, would you come into work on Monday?" And they said, no. I said, "If you won the US lottery tomorrow, would you go into your animal sanctuary on Monday?" And they said, "Yes." So, okay. So there's the difference between being passionate about something and actually not being passionate about something. And it's this belief that, this is really important because it pays my mortgage. Actually, unless it pays your mortgage as well, there's no reason for you to be passionate about it.
Yeah, and I see a lot of content. People put this stuff out, and of course, what it says is right back to the beginning of when we talked about at the beginning, which is that what marketing always say is buy my product because we're great. So we don't read when someone puts out, "Here's a great case study." It's like, well, I'm not going to read it because I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, the customer is not going to say, "Well, you were expensive, that the product didn't work, and we had to fly some people in from the States." They're not going to say that. So it's pointless us reading it. So we know what the answer is. So it's kind of, and what we know from research is that buyers are looking for social proof. So we're looking for, if we're gonna spend money, what we're looking for is social proof from somebody that understands our business, understands our industry, and is probably a person, as in they haven't got commission breath. So we can see that the fact that their son is a paddy diver or something like that, or they're watching the football or whatever. And that's what buyers are looking for. And so it goes back to what you said about how can we get marketing to support the sales team to be showing those things. While I've got the floor, I'm going to say something else.
Please.
Sales kickoffs. So when you say to somebody, who's the most important person in the world? The customer. Okay. So why? So sales kickoffs. Sure, you can share stuff of that because it shows a bit about your culture. But remember, that's internal. Your customers are not interested in it. It's actually quite good for you to recruit people. But if you see it as a revenue generating activity, it's not, because again, it's internal, not external faced to what your customers want, which is.
But I did a post. I did a post about our sales kickoff, and I got 175 likes on it.
Yeah.
They were all from my
you had 175 people who report to you.
Oddly, yeah, there seems to be a parallel there between the two. Yeah, it is.
So just can we, as we've got a couple of minutes, can we put Jat?
Yep.
I don't know if it's Jat or Yat. So he's probably gone, but thank you for checking us out.
Yeah.
And Camilla as well, who I know. Hello to in Brazil.
Yeah, I think though the big thing here is that sales functions within organizations, they need to park all of the belief and start to think about what actually is proven to work and isn't. And that unfortunately in sales, it's a very male dominated place. It's not to say there aren't some brilliant female salespeople, but it's a very male dominated place, and there's a lot of machismo there, isn't there? There's a lot of kind of like that, well, you already knew them, Tim, so it's not really selling. And the point is that the only metric that matters is how much stuff have you sold. How much pipeline you've generated is irrelevant. How many calls you've had in the long run is irrelevant, unless these are early indicators or leading indicators. How many calls you've made is worse than useless. But the only thing that matters is how much stuff have you sold. And if you're constantly having people phone you up and you're constantly recording stuff into your pipeline and you're constantly closing stuff, the whole business should be looking at you saying, what's this person doing that we're not, and what can we learn from that? Not, well, it's because he's cheating, he's not making enough cold calls. Well, it doesn't matter. Cold calls are the beginning, not the end of the process.
That's a great starting point indeed. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been great. So
thank you, Bertrand.
Thank you. Yes.
Where can we learn more?
Well, I think the best thing is you follow each of us on LinkedIn, because
I'm on LinkedIn, Adam's on LinkedIn, and Bertrand's on LinkedIn. You should be able to find us. If you can't, you're probably not looking hard enough. And please follow us, and you'll find more of this, and more of the same.
Okay, excellent. I can't step this one. We now have a newsletter. I hope you know that, guys.
You're going to go put it over.
Yes, exactly. And here we go. Don't miss an episode. Get the show highlights and the behind the scenes, the beyond the show insights, and reminders of upcoming episodes. You may scan the QR code on our screen or visit us at digitaldownloads/newsletter. Thank you very much, guys, and